think, act, and prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show, where we think, act, and prosper. This channel focuses on changing financial trajectories and building legacies. I'm your host, Daryl Thomas, and today you are in for a treat. You are receiving exclusive content from the New Orleans Investment Conference. I had the opportunity of interviewing multiple experts within their respective field in the finance and resource sector. So be sure to hit the subscribe button. Take a look at this statistic. Over 91% of people that have watched my channel over its lifetime have not subscribed. So hitting the subscribe button only takes a second, and it is free to you. And for me, when I put out this content, it costs me money and time. So I hope that you all understand that and hope that you consider hitting the subscribe button. So without further ado, let's get to the interview. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show, where we think, act, and prosper. Today, I have the man here in the flesh, Sean Wade, who has been on the channel multiple times, of Power Metal Resources. How you doing today?
Oh, great, Daryl, and thanks so much for having me. It's great to see you again in person.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, what's been your experience like here at the New Orleans Investment Conference?
Oh, it's been fantastic. I mean, it's a really, really busy week. We've had a lot of individual meetings. We've seen a lot of new investors. We've caught up with some current shareholders. What's been really great is actually seeing how many people that we've met this week who we saw in Florida when we first met, who are shareholders. And I know you are as well, which is fantastic. But a lot of people have come up and said that they've bought shares since we met in Florida, and that's really the purpose of the visit. You know, we want to take our message to new investors, and we want to obviously help our investors get great returns, and of course that means getting people to buy the shares. And I'm delighted that we've had a great response to that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I really like the approach that you all take. In terms of educating potential investors and promoting your company. Like I've been hearing a lot of the kind of the same speeches from some of the companies here, and I'm not throwing any shade, just saying what I hear. And I don't hear those same pitches from you all. And so, like, what do you feel like speaks for your company as you're here, in the United States, and obviously you're on the London Stock Exchange? But what do you feel speaks the most about your company?
Well, it's a really great point, because this is key to what we're doing this week. We feel that we've got a very differentiated proposal for investors here. So, we sit within the junior mining space, obviously, and we are at heart, an explorer. We're looking for commodities, but we have what Rick Rule describes as a merchant banking model. And I know we've talked about that on previous interviews, but what we're getting across to people this week really is how we can diversify their investment and how we can minimize their risk, but at the same time maximize return. And that's really key, because everybody here wants to make money. Everybody's looking for great ways to play what we're all convinced is going to be a big upcycle in mining shares, and that's absolutely what we're trying to do. But at the same time, we're saying to investors, we can help you manage that risk, so you're not overexposed to one particular project or to one particular commodity or geography. We're spread around all of what we call the power metals. We've got exposure to uranium, we've got lithium, we've got copper, PGEs, rare earths, you name it, gold as well, of course. And geographically, we're here in the United States, we're in Canada, we're in Australia, we're in parts of Africa, and soon, hopefully, also in Saudi Arabia. And I think we talked about it on the last show. So, there's a big geographic spread, but fundamentally, what's key is we've got a great team, we've got fantastic people, all working very, very hard to deliver returns to shareholders, and that's what we're here to do. And my job is, apart from to represent the company externally, is to make sure that the capital structure is right, that we have the cash that we need for our operations. And one thing I want to get across to shareholders is, we've heard a lot this week about the scarcity of capital in the junior space, and that's quite right. It's very, very hard to raise money. So what we're looking to do is to grow our business without diluting shareholders as much as we can. Okay, and what that means, obviously, is where we have the opportunity to make cash disposals, bring cash into the business without having to raise money in the market. That's what we're seeking to do. So, and I know a lot of shareholders, it's a very important part of the investment case for them. And one of the reasons I think people look to invest is they look for companies where are they going to have to raise money? What's the dilution going to look like? And we're trying to minimize that as much as we can. So, yeah, it is a differentiated offering, apart from the fact that we're one of, I think, only 2 companies here representing the United Kingdom. We have that differentiated offering of our business model.
Mm-hmm. That's good. You mentioned that. And so I recently interviewed Brent Cook. He's a geologist, and so he had a presentation about global warming, climate change, and such. And you all are like at the forefront of a lot of these metals. And so being based in the UK, obviously, like here, like a lot of times I have these blinders on. I just look at the United States, right? But what's the sentiment around climate change and addressing that in the UK?
Oh, it's really high up the agenda, obviously, politically, nationally, of course, but investors' minds, and that's obviously where I'm focused, is delivering returns for investors. And UK investors, they want to make safe, ethical investments, of course, and that's very important. It's very important to have a strong ESG component in everything you do, but they're also looking for ways that the transition to a greener economy is going to create returns in investment, and of course the critical minerals and the metals that are going to be used in that transition are absolutely key, and that's what we're focused on. I mean, we had some comments from Rick Rule yesterday which really stuck with me. He was saying that there are 1 billion people on the planet with no access to electricity at all, which is a staggeringly high number. He said there are a further 2 billion people with very, very unreliable electricity. So if you're talking about, getting on, around a third of the world's population. So if you say, well, we're going to have to electrify those economies and give those people access to economic growth and so on, which electricity will provide, that's a lot of metal that you're going to need. It's going to mean nuclear power, where obviously we're exposed through uranium. It's going to mean obviously a lot of copper wiring, where we've clearly got a lot of exposure there as well. It's going to mean electric vehicles, when we talk about our nickel and our rare earths. So we're right in the sweet spot for that. But you're right to point out that it's a very important issue for investors and obviously for people generally.
That's good. So one thing I'm thinking about is what do you see as the most critical metal that has the least supply or least availability?
Well, that's it's a tough one. What I would say on that, where we are making our bet in the portfolio is we're very big bulls on uranium. Okay, I know we talked about this a bit before, but we've got this 1,000 square kilometre license area in and around the Athabasca Basin in Canada. It's the number 1 address globally for uranium discoveries. We're very exposed there. And at the moment, we're undertaking a small spin-out IPO of some of those properties, which the market knows about. And we're doing very well with a financing round, which we're going to be announcing the results of that soon. And that will be an IPO that we look to hopefully do, I would say, well, I'd like to do it really at the very beginning of next year. So we're quite close to the next exploration season, which will be in April, I expect. But for us, it's a very big bet in the portfolio, and I think we're looking at a potential bull market there that it could have a decade to run. So I think it's something that it's one of the few areas where you can raise a bit of money at the moment, and investors are really excited about it.
Yeah. So uranium bull market. We've been hearing it for a while. The price of uranium continues to rise and stay elevated. And so, it's a very exciting story, especially it being a clean energy that's coming and that can serve as a base load power for electricity. And so that's really good. So some of the other metals that you all focus on, lithium, is one of them. Lithium has been just getting clobbered. A lot of the stocks are just going down. What are you seeing in that market as to, do you know why it's struggling?
Well, I think a possible answer may be that there's an oversupply, not of lithium itself, of course, but of lithium companies. There are a lot of junior lithium companies. A lot of them vary in terms of the type of geology that they have. It's a tough market for investors to really get to grips with in terms of what exactly type of lithium do I want, where do I want it located, all the logistics involved in that. I think a lot of money is being raised in that area, and I think perhaps it's difficult for people to differentiate. I mean, we have lithium exposure in two areas, in Australia, also in Canada, and we're looking at ways of monetizing that for our shareholders. But you rightly point out, it's been a tricky market. So we wouldn't necessarily say we're in a huge rush there. We want to add value to those projects before we bring them to market, and I think that's key. I think it's important that if you bring these assets to market, they've got to be as realistically far advanced as you can get them, and that's our business model. That we want to take these assets, add value through methodical and cost-effective exploration to a point where we can then monetize them and we can get them interesting for investors. It's no point taking moose pasture to the market because it's too early days and people don't know what you've got. The more you can prove what your asset contains, the easier it is.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So what are some things that the audience can look forward to with Power Metals that you can share?
Well, yes, that's right. Well, obviously, as you rightly point out, there's always things going on which we have to be a little bit sort of circumspect about. But I think what investors can expect is, we're going to be talking more about our high impact exploration programs going forward. Hopefully, we're going to have some more news on our IPO progress, and UE is one that I mentioned there. First Development Resources is another one. We're also going to be talking a lot more about our ambitions in Saudi Arabia and Oman. We had an extremely successful visit a few weeks ago where we've already creating some great relationships, and what I'm hoping is that those are going to follow through into some concrete agreements, both in terms of us acquiring license areas, but also some local investment partnerships to help to exploit those. So, those are really the main areas I think investors can look forward to. As I said at the top, we want to get cash into the business through means other than raising fresh equity. So we're looking to make sure that the portfolio is optimized, and where there's opportunities for cash injections, we'll take those because cash is important. I think the experience of a lot of companies, you've had to raise money perhaps when they haven't wanted to, has been very tough. So you're in a good position there, and we can ride out this difficult phase, and we can deliver great returns for investors, as we look into the new year.
Yeah. It takes a lot of optimism and conviction, to just keep going. I mean,
Well, yes, I think it's right, but I think it's hard work, and at the moment it's tough. But I think if you think through cycle, if you think about the upside for the uranium, for example, that we spoke about, there is a lot of reason to be very optimistic. We are in difficult market conditions, but you can't, blame that entirely. What we can do is carry on doing what we're doing, okay, which is high impact exploration, monetizing the portfolio, adding value to those assets while they're under our management. When the cycle turns, we're in a fantastic position. So we're patient, we're working hard, we're making sure the business has the right levels of capital and the best possible portfolio, and I'm absolutely convinced that we're going to deliver, as I said, fantastic returns for investors.
That's good. Well, anything else you would like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Well, it's, to say, thank you very much for having me. It's fantastic to see you again. We are very focused on all of our investors. This week we're talking to US investors. We're hoping that we can deliver the US OTC listing that we've talked about to make it easier for our US investors to trade the stock and obviously to buy the stock. And I'm hoping that we can talk about that a little bit more over the coming weeks. We're going through a process at the moment with our application, but that'll be a big announcement for us when it comes, which I'm sure that it will. But just to say, look, we're always available to answer any questions, and we're very good system for info at Power Metal Resources, as you know, but obviously the website and so on, and of course in-person attendance at conference and so on gives us a chance to interact directly with shareholders. So we're very keen to interact and to help people to understand the story as much as we can.
Yeah, and you all are traveling from far away, to come, really build a relationship with the American investors and such. And so definitely appreciate that because this is an awesome company and it has a lot of value to deliver. So thank you for coming on again, and we'll be sure to connect soon as we hear more about the news with the OTC.
Yeah, thanks very much, Darryl. Look forward to it.